one. We on.
Hi guys, welcome to Urban Renal Talk with Tamika
And Steve.
and
Hello,
Steve.
everyone. One. We on. Hi guys. What's up?
Welcome everyone. Hi Steve, how are you?
All right, Tamika. What's going on?
Nothing. Just doing more research on kidney disease.
Yeah, I know. It's coming. Really hitting us hard.
Yeah, I found that there's more and more. More and more famous people are coming out the woodwork speaking on kidney disease and organ donations.
Yeah, I know. That's a plus. That's a plus.
Yes,
Long
it
as
is.
they, advocate and just don't, keep that to themselves.
Right. It's not just you don't want to say poor people disease, but it shows it affects everyone, no matter how much money you have. Like money doesn't stop kidney disease.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Tamika, we have a great guest tonight. Miss Eve from New York City, transplant recipient.
Okay,
I'm
awesome.
gonna bring her up. Hey, Miss Eve, how you doing?
Hi, Steve. Hi,
How's it,
Tamika.
how's everything?
Everything is okay. Thanks.
Good. So what's going on? What's the weather like up in New York?
It is freezing. Freezing. I think it's like 33 degrees, so it's crazy. Howling.
Right. What about you, Tamika? What's going on in Philly?
Same. It's saying cold too, but Eve, if she's in New York City, she's a little colder than down here.
Yeah, she's down here in Baltimore as well.
Yeah, it's cold.
All up and down the East Coast, but at least we ain't got no snow.
Don't
That's
speak
true.
that into
That's
existence.
true.
Don't they said it's supposed to be a snowstorm this weekend, so don't speak that into existence. Okay,
Yeah.
No.
that's right.
So Miss Eve, I noticed your Facebook page, and I know you're a transplant recipient just over 2 years now.
No, it's actually going to be 5 years, Steve, in
Oh,
March.
5 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. God, thank God. Thank God.
Wow.
God
Yes.
is good. Yep.
How did your journey start with kidney disease?
Well, I was a diabetic for 37 years, Steve.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was very brittle, which means that my levels are going up and down for quite some time, and my creatinine levels, which measures the kidney function, it was going up. It was rapidly going up. And so at the time I had an endocrinologist who is a specialist, and he suggested that I see a nephrologist who specializes in kidney function. So I saw the kidney doctor for quite some time, and again, the levels were going up. They were rapidly increasing. Yeah, and I was in denial because I couldn't believe something like that was happening to me so rapidly. And then my nephrologist, after a number of years, he suggested that I go on dialysis. And that, my dear, was that was frightening for me. That was very frightening. Again, I was in denial with that because I didn't understand what dialysis was. I didn't know what it would entail. And I didn't realize certain things about dialysis. But when he approached me with it, he said that I had to think about dialysis because my function was decreasing. So when my function decreased to about, I think my kidney function was about maybe 10 to 7%, he said, we've got to do something about this. So at about maybe 7%, I had to go in and get an emergency fistula, which is an opening to accept dialysis.
Is that in your right upper arm?
I did not have it in the right upper arm. I actually had a catheter. I was not ready for that. Sorry, my phone is ringing. This is live, right?
This is live. Hey, anything happens live.
It is live. It is live. So sorry.
It's okay.
That's my sister, probably wanting to know what's going on. But I didn't have the regular opening, which is the right upper arm. My veins are very, very small, so it would not accept it. So they put a catheter into my chest. And I had the catheter in for a year. Again, because I was in denial, because I didn't want to have anything in my arm. And they reminded me about how dangerous it was to have a catheter in my chest, because that was the opening was in the heart, right by the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm recalling everything, and I don't mean to be teary. I know this is live, but it's really hard.
Oh no, the truth is the truth, and that's what this program is all about, letting people know what warriors go through with this disease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so please share everything so people will know that's how we beat this disease.
Well, a catheter, again, is it's not something that the doctors want you to have in your in that area for more than 3 months. But I had it in for a year.
Oh, Eve. Hey, Eve, don't feel bad. I've known patients that had them in for 3 and 4 years, and Tamika tell you she probably know patients that had them in longer than that.
Patients that refuse to get it out. Refuse.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the denial process, really, because you don't want to have a foreign object in your body. You don't want to have a fistula in your body. And what that means is that you have to see a vein specialist, and they have to open up that area to prepare you to receive dialysis treatment. And what dialysis treatment is, it's 2 huge needles going into your veins on a daily or weekly or whatever it is basis, whatever the regimen they have you on. At first, they started me out with 2 twice a week, but I knew that was not enough. And that was an agreement with my nephrologist. He said, I think you need to go 3 times a week. But I said, no, I'm not going 3 times a week. Nope. Nope. I'm going twice a week. And so we agreed to twice a week. And that didn't last for too long, because with kidney disease comes swelling. And with kidney disease comes water intake. So I would swell up, my hands would swell up, my ankles would swell up.
What?
And so, the twice a week ended up being 3 times a week. And again, I was in denial of that because I couldn't believe that I was sitting in a chair 3 times a week for 3 hours. And mind you, I was working full time. So nobody at work knew what was I going through. At home, they knew, but my family members didn't really understand what I was going through. But it was difficult. It's a very, very difficult period when you have to endure dialysis. So you're working full time. You're trying to maintain the activities that you normally do full time. And yet you're sitting in a chair 3 times a week, trying to get clean and making sure that your blood is clean. So these are needles going into your body and going out of your body, trying to clean and purify your blood, because my kidneys can't filter out things. And what I didn't understand is that you stop urinating with dialysis treatment also. And again, keep in mind, I'm like, this is like private information I'm talking about, because I've never been so open, but I think that this will save a lot of lives, and people will probably see a nephrologist if, they're diabetics. I think it's really, really important. I really do. So, again, with the diabetes and with the dialysis, with everything, it became very, very difficult for me. So after a while, I don't see you guys. I don't see your pictures. Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. Hold on. Let me interrupt this for a second. Hold tight. Yeah, let me interrupt this broadcast for a second. We have a mentally ill person that's on this feed, June Kaufman. Audience, please report her with these comments, these harassment comments. Please report her right now to Facebook. I am unable to do it because I have her blocked. We will not take this nonsense. Please block this woman, report her to Facebook, and that's all I want to say. We'll continue with this show. Thank you. I'm sorry, Miss Eve. My apologies. We have someone who got into this broadcast and trying to disrupt this process. So please continue.
Wow. Okay. So I was talking about dialysis treatment.
Sure.
And the denial behind it and how important it is for people that have diabetes and that have lower kidney function to please seek out some kind of help with that because it's very important.
No, absolutely.
It can rapidly deteriorate. So dialysis treatment for me was very, very difficult. I was very much in denial of it, even sitting in a chair for 3 hours or 3 times a week. But you know what? What's important, Steve, is that you have the support of family, friends, and I was very fortunate to have that. I had a family that would pick me up from dialysis, take me to dialysis. I had a boyfriend that was very supportive. I had a mother that was supportive, brother, everybody around me was very supportive. And that is the key also to dialysis treatment, to have people that understand or try to understand as much as they can.
Right. Did you experience any of the side effects when you first started dialysis, like cramping or nausea, vomiting, and itching?
I experienced not the vomiting, not necessarily the itching, some itching because I was told that it had to do with phosphorus levels and dry skin. But what I did experience was some sort of like eruptions of skin on my legs and my arms, and I had to see a dermatologist for that. And she told me that it was due to the dialysis treatment. So I think that with dialysis treatment comes a lot of different things that happen to the skin, eruptions of the skin, discoloration of the skin, darkness of the skin. That's another thing, hyperpigmentation of the skin. So a lot of different things happen with the skin. So,
when you received your transplant, did all that clear up?
Everything cleared up with the transplant. Everything cleared up. So that's another thing, the journey with the transplant. I was told, and thank goodness, and I'm gonna praise thanks for Fresenius. I'm not advertising for Fresenius, but
Sure.
I will say thank you to Fresenius, especially the location that I was at, to have the hindsight, to have a social worker that was wonderful. I mean, social workers, I don't think they get the props that they deserve, but at these centers, please, if you're on dialysis, please seek out your social worker. They can do miracles for you. This one happened to be a wonderful miracle worker. She put me on to, she suggested that I get on the transplant list because she thought that I shouldn't be on dialysis. I should really be looking at other options because I was very energetic. I had a lot. She didn't see me on the seat. You know what I mean? So she suggested that I put myself on the list, which I did. And there was one in New York City. There were several transplant lists, but there was one in particular that was with Columbia, Weill Cornell, I should say. And they were phenomenal with me. So I put myself on the transplant list. I did all the procedures. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of interviewing. It's a long process. And it took a lot of speaking to doctors. Again, I was fortunate that I went with family members. I went with a cousin of mine that just, she was phenomenal. I went with my dad. I went with lots of folks, lots of support. But I did speak to doctors about the alternatives, about a kidney transplant versus a kidney and pancreas transplant. Because again, keep in mind that I'm a diabetic. And so the underlying.
So you had a kidney pancreas transplant?
I was a double transplant recipient.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
So we had another lady, Karen Hunter Clayton out of Florida. She was a kidney pancreas transplant as well.
Yeah, I think what it is that it's important to understand that kidney disease with diabetics is caused. The underlying reason why we have kidney disease is because of the diabetes. I mean, diabetes has a lot of um, different complications, and one of them is kidney disease. And I don't think enough of us know about kidney disease. You know about the feet, you know about the sight, but you don't know enough about kidney disease, you know?
I agree.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow. I wanted to ask you, are you a Jets fan?
Jets versus Giants fan or what?
No, just a Jets fan in general.
Okay, I'm a New York fan. I like New York teams.
Okay, okay.
Why, Steve?
Oh, well, no, I had saw one of your pictures where you had on Jet paraphernalia.
We love the Jet. We love the Jet.
Mm-hmm.
But we love our homies too. We love the Giants as well.
Right, right. So, Eve, what has been your biggest challenge with your transplant?
You know what, Steve? I'm going to be honest with you. And this is what I would tell people that are sitting on dialysis seats. I
Mm-hmm.
think that they should really, really consider getting transplants. I think that it's very, very important, especially those that are very energetic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really, I think they're gifts. What I received were gifts, and I received God's gifts because not only did it completely get rid of the diabetes that I had for 37 years, I was a juvenile diabetic for 37 years. My blood sugar levels are phenomenal, the best that they ever were, because I have a new pancreas and I have a
Okay.
new
Wow.
kidney. Yeah, yeah. But the complications are they're minor. They are
Wow.
really, and I can honestly, they're minor. In the
Wow.
beginning, the biggest challenge for me was the medication because I'm on immunosuppressants. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got to take a lot of immunosuppressants so that I don't reject my organs.
So
That's
has that decreased since you started?
It has decreased. I started out with maybe 20 pills in the morning and 20 pills in the evening. It was crazy. I didn't know how I would do it. I really didn't.
Wow.
But I've been weaned off, you see a doctor in the very beginning, several times a week, and then you see him once a month, and you get weaned off a little bit. Now I see my nephrologist maybe every 3 months. And so I've gone up from maybe 20 pills in the morning and 20 pills in the evening to maybe 6 in the evening to 5 in the morning, that much. I mean, it's
Right.
still considered to be a lot, but my goodness, I mean, my quality of life has changed dramatically. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the challenges are really minimal. But one of them what I might say is drinking water. That has always been
Right.
a challenge for me, but you've got to really, really drink a lot of water.
You mentioned that you were a private person. Has this disease forced you to come out of your comfort zone?
It has. I'm on this show. I'm not lying to you. It has only because I would never. I mean, Facebook is not a private thing. So what I put out is like it's going all over the place. So it's live.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important. I think, I take the bus sometimes to work. I take the train to work. So as soon as I hear somebody, I've been hearing people on dialysis, just to overhearing conversations. And
Really?
yes, I do. Yes, I do. And a lot of the
Wow.
time I say, excuse me, and I would never do that. I would never interrupt somebody's conversation, but it's a God intervention, which I don't know if that makes sense.
No, absolutely it does.
But I feel the need to interject, especially if I hear certain things. Yeah, it has awakened a lot of things. I never thought that I'd see so many, you know, before I was on dialysis, I never saw so many dialysis centers. Now they seem to be cropping up all over the place. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's something that they were there and I just didn't see them, but now I see more and more of them. And I feel like maybe this disease is progressing more than I'd like to think it is. And
Right.
so now it's more than important for the word to get out about kidney disease. It's very, very important that people
Right.
understand what kidney disease is.
We had a question. I can't pull it up. I'm trying. Oh, here we go. Um, from Paul. He want to know, do you still take insulin now?
No, I do not.
GLP.
No, no, I do not. I have no. I take no insulin. I no injections. I don't do any test strips. As soon as the funniest thing is that once I got my transplant, about a month later, I got rid of all my test strips, and this is months and months and months of test strips just stored up. So I no longer take injections. I no longer have to test my A1Cs that I used to take every month. They are like at an all-time low of 5.4, if that makes any sense. But it's really phenomenal because I have a new pancreas. This is a
Right.
gift. This is a gift from
Absolutely.
God. A gift from God.
Um, did they share your donor, or did they tell you about your organs?
They did tell me about the donor. And we have the option of getting in touch with a family. And I did get in touch with the family. I sent a very nice letter to them. But yes, I did find out about the donor. He was deceased. Yeah.
Wow.
He
Wow.
was, yeah, he was young. He was a 22-year-old that was in a car accident. That's as much as I know.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us how, and I'm sure a lot, but how has the transplant changed your life?
Well, it's given me freedom. It's given me freedom. You had somebody ask, it was Paul that asked about, do I need to take injections anymore? I no longer have to take injections. And I can eat what I want to eat without my blood sugars going up. I mean, I don't have the complications that I used to have. My eyesight has gotten better. Has gotten sharper. Um, I used to have podiatry appointments every other week. Now it's every maybe 6 months. I mean, a lot has changed.
Mm-hmm.
It has given me freedom, and it is by the grace of God.
Have this new lease on life um, made you change your lifestyle as far as your diet and exercising?
Yeah, I mean, as a diabetic, you learn how to manage. I mean, I was young. I can't remember when I wasn't a diabetic. I mean, I was maybe 12 when I was a diabetic, and as a 12-year-old with diabetes, it's always hard because you want to do everything that your friends want to do. You want to eat
Mm-hmm.
the same things that your friend want to eat. I had a brother I was living with, and it was difficult because I used to want to eat the same things that he was eating. I did eat the same things that he was eating, you know.
Right.
So it was difficult as a child. So diabetes is not easy, certainly not for a juvenile diabetic. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
has changed. A lot has changed. But again, with the transplant, it's almost like a reawakening.
Wow.
Yeah.
As a child, did they say anything about you ever getting on dialysis? Like growing up, did
Um,
you ever hear anything?
no, ma'am. No, and I think that with education and diabetes, and you had I think I didn't see you before, Tamika. You had faded out, but we were talking a little bit
Yeah,
about this. But with diabetes education, you concentrate more on the feet, and you
right,
concentrate more on the blindness, and you concentrate more on other things, but you never really concentrate on kidney disease.
right.
So dialysis is something that I found out after I had kidney disease. I didn't know anything about dialysis and what it would be like. Had I known, I would have been really afraid because dialysis is no joke.
Right. So true. So were they checking your your levels in your urine, like your protein levels and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And they never mentioned anything about your kidneys, why they were checking it or anything like that?
Well, they would tell you about protein spillage, and they would say that
Right.
it would definitely affect the kidneys, but they would never go into what would happen, the after effects. They would never talk about the complications. They would just always check the levels. As a child, when I was a child growing up, we didn't even have this. We had these little drops that we would put in test tubes to test the protein level, and that was years ago. So I would have to be careful with how much protein I was spilling,
Right.
But they would never say anything about what would happen if. Mm-mm. No.
Wow, that's crazy. Like I think if they would have had more education available, it could have helped prepare you for what was to come next, or
It would
possibly
scare
come
me.
next.
It would scare me. It would scare me.
Mm.
Yeah.
So Eve, when you started dialysis, was there ever a time that you thought that you weren't going to get a kidney, or did you have faith that it was going to happen as soon as it did?
The process is a long process, Steve. But from what I understand, it's my length of time getting a kidney was pretty relatively short. But I thought that, I went through the process, meaning that I did all the paperwork, I met with my transplant coordinator, we did all the niceties, but I didn't hear back from her for months. And I would be calling, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Have you heard anything? But what you have to understand is that they're trying to find a perfect match.
Right.
So that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it takes death. If you don't find a match with a living donor, then you have to look at somebody who's died. So you have to look at a deceased donor, if that makes sense.
Well, in your case, I mean, you pretty much not had to, but getting the pancreas and the kidneys, you would have had to go with a deceased person for that.
Right, when that became the option. In the beginning, it was about the kidney. And then I had a doctor that said it doesn't make any sense just to get the kidney because the underlying reason behind
It's diabetes.
is a diabetes. So, let's look for a double transplant. And of course,
Wow.
it scared me because it's like, wow, a double transplant? What does that mean?
Mm.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, because a lot of people don't suffer, with the, type 1, and kidney disease that needs that. I mean, you don't hear a lot about the double transplant, but I mean, so you really were kind of against the odds.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'm gonna
How
ask
long
a
did it take?
question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tamika.
Oh no, I was gonna ask a question from one of the viewers. Jared wanted to know, how does she stay patient with waiting? Like how did you stay patient through the process?
Well, I was sitting on a chair. I was, dialysis, you sit in a chair and you have a lot of time on your hands, right? So when you have a lot of time on your hand, you got to be doing something. And I chose to do something. So I went back to get my master's. So,
Oh, congratulations.
so I chose to do something with my time. So that kept me occupied.
That was awesome.
But mentally, it was not easy. That's where family comes in. That's where friends come in. And that's why I said in the beginning that you got to have the support of friends. You got to have the support of family. I had all of that. I had a wonderful, boyfriend. He was fantastic. My family was fantastic. I had a dad who would pick me up, a brother who would pick me up after treatment. It is a very mind-blowing experience. Again, I was working full time, so I didn't want to see a dialysis center after work. No.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Did
What
you
what
ever?
would
I'm
No,
sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm sorry, Tamika. Let me just ask this. What would you say to people watching this right now who may experience being in a relationship because of this disease? What kind of, I don't want to say advice, but from your experience, because you said you had a very loving boyfriend with you throughout this process, where with some people, um, their boyfriends may be left or girlfriends may be left because of this disease. What could you share with them to help them understand that love conquers this disease?
Yeah. The only advice that I honestly have is to choose. Well, you don't have the option to choose, but um, somebody in your life that really wants to not just please you, but tries to understand what you're going through and is very compassionate. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not always easy, especially with somebody who has this disease. It can be frustrating at times. But to have a partner who is compassionate and who is sensitive, and no matter what, understanding is very important, you know.
Wow, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
during your time on dialysis, did you ever think about going to see counseling, like for the depression?
I didn't really have depression at the time. I had no depression. It was just not understanding what I was going through because dialysis takes, dialysis is difficult. But I don't think I went into any kind of depressive mode. I mean, Tamika, I've always been God fearing. So
Good.
maybe that's been very helpful for me. That I turn to God for a lot of things. I pray a lot. And again, it's about I cannot stress enough how important it is to have a support team around you.
Oh, I
You
agree.
know,
I agree.
um, and I realize that a lot of people don't have that. So I don't even know what kind of advice that I would give for those that don't have that. But for me, and I can only speak for me, it was very important to turn to God and to pray a lot. So somebody asked me about, I don't know if it was you or Steve that asked me about the length of time between the time that I got the organs,
Mm-hmm. That was me.
and how I felt during that time. But I kept it moving. I kept it going. And I think that's the personality that I have, the personality type that I have, where I never use a diabetes as an excuse. I always did what everybody else did, including doing the wrong things that everybody else did too, by eating and, whatever. In college, I was drinking, I was doing whatever I was doing.
Right.
But I just kept it moving. But I prayed a lot during this time because I did not understand what I was going through. It is a very difficult time period. To be under dialysis is not fun. It hurts. That's the other thing. It is painful to have a huge needle, two huge needles going into your arm. And the other thing that I wanted to mention about dialysis is that you got to have the right technician. Because having the wrong, I'm not, Steve, I'm serious. So I'm
No,
serious
I was
about that.
no. Trust me, I hear you. That's why I laugh because I've been doing this so long that I've heard those comments many times. So no, I take you serious, Miss E. I know what you mean.
Um, because to have the wrong technician, because this is a needle that is going into your arm,
Mhm.
for a number of hours, 3 times a week, and your arms get calloused also. The vein gets calloused. And one of the fears that I had also was, around you, you have these veins that can get very unattractive. because they're using the same veins over and over again. And that was a big fear of mine, that they would hemorrhage and that they would just balloon. And when you have the wrong technician, that's what can happen. And accidents happen in the dialysis centers where blood is all over the place, you know, and you don't understand it. And you mentioned the cramping. I was fortunate not to get the cramping, because what people don't understand is that you can't drink when you're on dialysis. I could not drink a certain amount of water or any kind of fluid, because everything that I had to drink would go directly to my ankles, directly to my arms, directly to you bloat, because your kidneys function as a filter, meaning that it gets rid of the fluid, it gets rid of the toxins in your body. And when your kidneys don't function, everything builds up. Right? And so the cramping is caused by a certain amount of fluids that are taken off. I hope I'm not getting too technical here.
No. You're doing just fine. Everybody who's watching knows what you're talking about.
They know what I'm talking about. So, you know, I would sit there and watch people with like 32 ounces of fluid, and yet I could only drink like maybe a quarter of a cup a day. You know, you can't drink when you're on dialysis because there's nowhere for the fluids to go. You're not peeing. You're not peeing. You stop peeing because the dialysis it dries you out. And so when you're at a center and you're trying to do the best that you can, and you see other people eating, sitting, eating, drinking, it's crazy to me. But again, having the right technician, the reason why there's cramping is because they're trying to get rid of all the fluids, and that doesn't work that way. But the technician should be the one telling you that as well. He should be giving you advice in a way. But
you have mentioned. Now go ahead, Tamika. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tamika. You go.
So were your technicians educating you, or were they just standing by?
Good ones were. The great ones were. Yeah, the great ones were. The great ones were. And I think that as a dialysis patient, sometimes you can pick and choose which technicians that you have if you're that fortunate. If they're working, then you can request them. And other times you just get whatever you get. And that becomes a problem because they don't know your veins. They don't know what works. They don't, there's just so much. There's so much.
And no, you have mentioned that when you was telling us about the technicians in the beginning that you encountered or seen some problems. Could you give us some examples of problems that you may experienced or seen in the outpatient dialysis facility?
Sure. I would experience some technicians trying to find veins, and they're not successful, and they're not very compassionate when it comes to the patient. They were just there to keep digging and digging and digging. Again, keep in mind, these needles are huge. They're huge. And so there was no compassion there. And so when that would happen, you know, we would have some accidents with the blood. So blood would be all over the floor. Or afterwards they would bandage them up and blood would still be on the floor. They would be getting ready to go home and they'd bandage them up and blood is still on their arms. But because the technicians had to be home or had to go home, then they would let the patients go. So that
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that was dangerous. Or I would see them.
To show the guests one of the needles that you're talking about.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for the reminder.
I was about to say that, Steve. Like, okay, I don't think she wanted to see that.
No, thanks for the reminder.
But the point is, you know, if you could prevent from going down this road to experience what Eve experienced and a lot of warriors out there experience right now, I mean, do yourself a favor, get tested, you know, be aware of this because this is where kidney disease can lead you at the end. So I just wanted to emphasize that because we don't take this lightly, especially what you went through and what you experience with the blood spill, all that's part of infection control. And Tamika would tell you, this is what we advocate for because we know what's happening because this is what we've been doing for the last 20 years.
Yep.
Yes, and I'm a dialysis technician, so I do understand the compassion in some that don't have compassion and some that just let you leave out and your arm is bleeding, and sometimes we can't be everywhere to stop some of the other ones from inflicting harm or not having compassion. Some people culture just don't allow them to have compassion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I did not know that you were a technician. I had no idea. See, this
Yes.
is how unscripted everything is, right? I had no
Yes.
idea. So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
I've been a dialysis technician for just about 20 years.
So you
Yeah.
understand. Or the cramping, you would see patients that need to take off a certain amount, and yet they would take it off as prescribed. And yet there's so much cramping going on at the facility. People are aching, they're crying because of what is
Well,
prescribed.
right. Sometimes I don't go by the prescription. I go by that person. Once I know that person's body, like the other prescription says to take off 4, well, you can only take off 2. So we're only going to try to take off this 2 and then leave a note that you can't take off this. Maybe you come for extra treatment or something, or they reevaluate your dry weight. But if they can't take it off, I'm not going to force them because they're going to be drained and they still have a life after this.
Yeah, and this is why we advocate for kidney warriors to be mindful of their treatment.
Yeah.
You definitely got to be mindful of your treatment because if other warriors are going and they just go in and not mindful of how much is being taken off, what their dry weight is, incidents like the cramping is going to happen, especially if you have someone take, like you said, in this field, because I'm a nurse as well, but I don't do the clinical part anymore of dialysis. But Tamika would tell you, technicians go between Fresenius, DaVita, and other dialysis units working. So if your unit is short and they need some help, they're going to, solicit from another unit. And just by happen, that person may get assigned to you. And so I understand exactly what you're saying when someone comes in the unit and you already have small veins and they don't know your arm, and a person who's normally there who may normally stick you may not be there. Look, what are you left with? What other options?
And
Right.
instantly when the technician is not doing it right because it hurts. It
Right.
really hurts. So yeah, I wish there was a way that, people don't always listen when it comes to care, and I wish there was a way to just prevent this. And I know that there's not just diabetes, I know that it's high blood pressure also, but if people would just know that it's not fun sitting in a dialysis chair. I'm to the extreme where I've sat on a chair and I've gotten a transplant and I've moved on, but that sitting in the chair is no joke. And it takes away from your life. It takes away from your livelihood. And I'm saying 3 hours a week, 3 hours, 3 times a week, that's 9 hours a week.
That doesn't count when you first get there. So you got to add that too.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take away from your life when you could be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was an evening patient because I work full time, but there were some other people that were there on Saturdays, Sundays. And 3 hours is a minimal. There are some people that are there 7 hours, 7 hours at a time. And I couldn't understand that. But if you really understand what the kidney function is about, it's about making sure that you're removing the toxins. And just think about this. How many times a day do you go to the bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the dialysis machine is doing for you. So if you're telling me that you go to the bathroom 4 times a day and you're only getting treatment 3 times a week for 3 hours, you got to put that into perspective. And again, I was in denial of that. So it's tough.
Yes.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so did your skin color change while you was on dialysis?
Mm-hmm.
And you got it back once you got the transplant?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about that, Tamika, when you were
People, they don't even understand that, like, your skin color changes. You know, it gets darker. That's from the toxins.
It's from the toxins. We were talking about the problems with skin also, and you can get discoloration, and I got not eruptions is not the right word, but like pock marks all over my legs. So I had to go see a dermatologist, and she said that she couldn't help. And this is my dermat. I love her, but she was like being real with me that as long as I'm on dialysis, this is what's going to happen. And so as soon as I was off dialysis, everything cleared up. My skin cleared up.
Right.
My color came back. My complexion was really, it was like gray and dark, and that was the toxins. And I didn't even know it. I didn't know it until I looked at the pictures, my pictures, and I was like, oh well, maybe it's like, I'm just darker. But the skin changes. Yeah. It's certainly
dialysis is not 100%, so it's not cleaning your body 100%. It's still leaving toxins in it. It's cleaning what it can. So the more the toxins build up, some things are going to change because it's toxins. It's poison.
Yeah. It is poison. Yeah. And I think that the other thing that people need to understand, I mean, I know that there are some patients that have been on dialysis for a number of years, but again, this is not a way of life. It shouldn't be a way of life. So.
Let me ask you, were you offered to do home dialysis when you first started?
It was an option, but I was afraid to do it because I was afraid to stick myself. And I was afraid that it wasn't necessarily the most sanitary. I just didn't want to do that. So I was given the option.
Right. Up where you're at in New York, is there nocturnal dialysis where they do treatment overnight?
There is. Yeah, the center that I was at. I was in the Chelsea area of New York. I don't know if you guys know New York that well, but it's like in the downtown area. And again, the Fresenius Center there was fantastic. They're phenomenal over there. But there is a nocturnal center there where, those for those that work, I guess in the morning they would go. I never understood it, but they would go to work the very next day. They would sleep. It's like long term, and they would sleep overnight there, and then they'd be up in the morning. So, yep.
Right. That type of dialysis is because they dialyze between 6 and 7 hours, it's a much better, high quality type of treatment. Is done much slower, but a lot of the people's KT over Vs are like 2.5, 3. I mean, real good dialysis. And a lot of them, are taken off of their high blood pressure medicines and a lot of their medicines as well.
Yeah. I don't think that would be an option for me personally, only because I like my own bed. So I would not, and I don't know about the quality of sleep in the center when you're sleeping with other people in there too. So I don't know.
I had something to ask you, and it just came to me. When you were on dialysis, did you have disruptive sleep patterns?
Yeah, I still do. Even after transplant, it's not easy.
Do you use any type of sleep aid to help you?
No, I don't. Now it's getting better because I've said to myself that I will, I set a time limit for myself to try to get to sleep. But I do not use a sleep aid. I mean, I'm already taking so many immunosuppressants, even after almost 5 years. I would never introduce another pill into my my regimen.
Wow.
What would you say? I'm sorry. What would you say to the young lady that's starting dialysis tomorrow? Because there's somebody out there starting dialysis tomorrow and scared. What would you say to them to get through it?
Yes, I would say do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. I think when you think about it, it's scarier than it actually is. I think when you finally sit in a chair, it will be okay. But I would definitely let that young lady know that there are options out there. Dialysis, sitting in a dialysis chair is not the only option. I would seek other options. For me, transplant was another option. But sitting in a chair for a young lady is not the only option.
I agree. I agree.
You know,
So,
it's a rough one. It's a really rough one, but but I would definitely say do not be afraid. It is what it is. You just got to keep it moving.
Right. Do you
right.
think there needs to be more support groups out here?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. There are support groups, believe it or not, on Facebook. That's how I found Steve, actually. It was through, I belong to this kidney pancreas group. There are lots of support groups out there that are really, really good. But this kidney pancreas group, they showed a video of something that Steve had, somebody that he had interviewed, and they
See,
said,
Tamika?
yeah, well, yeah, it's true. And that's how I met, that's how we just communicated. And so this transplant recipient in the group, he's like, look at this. I want to share this with you guys. And so that's how I came onto the page. So I think it's important that there are these groups out there that can understand, because, even though you have the support of your family and your loved ones, they don't understand what you're going through. They
right,
do
but
not
what about the people
understand.
what about the people that's not on Facebook? Everyone's not on social media. Do you
Right.
think that the units should have some information up there on how to get in contact or how to find the different groups? Because some people don't know that there's Facebook groups, you
Yes.
know. Some people just stumble on them or they hear about them from someone else. But there's a lot of people out there that have no clue that there's Facebook groups about dialysis or kidney transplant or pancreas or any groups at all. They're not knowledgeable of that. So you
And
think that the sooner
yeah,
should
I'm sorry to interrupt. I agree with you. And I think that what needs to be done is more community outreach.
Mhm.
I think it's really, really important, especially in urban communities where this is happening, where they think that they don't even, a lot of people don't even realize that they are undergoing kidney disease or that they have kidney disease because they don't have the symptoms. You don't feel it. You don't feel it until it's really too late.
Right.
But I think that the outreach is really important. I think that groups should go into these communities, talk to, larger hospitals about how you can do this. There are a lot of community-based organizations that you can tap into. Even public access TV sometimes, but I think
Right.
it's important. What a cute little baby. I'm looking at your
Oh,
baby.
sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Try to keep her calm.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Thank you for that. I was just wondering, like, just trying to find different ways for when I do go back to work to try to add something else to the unit, like, to try to help some of the patients, look here, you can go here, you could go there and get some help, or, you need to talk to someone, you could go here. And just from another patient or prior patient or former patient, what needs to be in the unit.
What about posting like flyers and attractive type of things on bulletin boards?
Right.
Even in your laundry rooms. I mean, these things that are accessible, people look at. I'm doing my laundry and I'm looking at bulletin boards.
Right.
Well,
You know?
I have
Or
one better. How about if the corporate companies like DaVita and Fresenius sponsor a billboard letting the whole community know that diabetes and hypertension are the leading causes of kidney failure?
how
They're
about
not
that,
going to do
Dave?
that.
How
Why
No,
would
about
they
no,
do
that?
I know that. I
that?
know
Yeah.
that, but I think it should be a corporate conscious awareness, especially if you're doing business in these communities or treating patients. You should also let them know about what's causing the kidney disease as well.
Right. They put everything up for cancer, you know, and that's not taken away from anyone that has or have had or family members have cancer. They put a lot of things out there for cancer, but not a lot for people with kidney disease.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same effort should go into that as they do cancer.
Right. Eve, do you I noticed that you had did some work for the Kidney Foundation in the past. Are you planning on doing any future endeavors?
Well, I walk. I've been walking with them, you know, since since I was on dialysis. I mean, I might have missed a year or two.
Okay.
But the other thing is that I am speaking to somebody with one of the hospitals with Weill Cornell. They've approached me about sharing my story. So I don't know what that entails. I don't speak to her until next week. So we'll see how that goes.
Wonderful.
But I think it's important for me to talk to people that are, you know, that have experienced what I'm experiencing, that are afraid, that don't know what the next step is, that are in the process, and that can see what somebody looks like after transplant.
Yes.
And what you've gone through after transplant. Even after transplant, it's not always easy. The first few months is not easy. You know, I'm going on 5
Right.
years now, and of course you have different things that you experience. But you know, my goodness, these are gifts. These are
Mm-hmm.
gifts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So,
Wow. So we definitely coming down to the end of our hour. Anybody you'd like to send a shout out to your supporters?
Oh my goodness, there's so many people. That's not fair. Of course, my mother, Jacqueline, my father, Eve, my brother, Reggie, my boyfriend, Jerry. I mean, all my friends, my, you know, girlfriends, Jillian. Oh, I have a whole support team out there. It wouldn't be fair. You know,
Right.
my cousin
Right.
Nadine, who was with me when, you know, when I went to see my doctor who suggested that I get a double transplant. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that I would like to say thank you to. You know, my cousin Gerda. Oh my goodness. My cousin Gerda was with me on the day she spent her birthday with me when I got my transplant. On the day that I was getting my transplant. I mean, I have beautiful family members, you know, that are not selfish. So I say thank you to them all. My nephews, you know, my beautiful nephews.
you're very
You know,
blessed.
yeah,
Oh,
it's a
absolutely.
Very
blessing.
blessed.
And I thank God for them. You know, I thank the Lord for them. So there are a
Wow.
lot of people.
That's
Very blessed.
wonderful. Well, Miss E, we definitely thank you for being on our show, taking the time out of your schedule and stepping out of your comfort zone to share your story, because it's important that even though, you know, we do stories every week, but each story is different, but it has the same thing in common, and that's kidney disease.
Mm-hmm. You
Yeah.
notice that, Steve? No two stories are alike, except for the common
Absolutely.
denominator, kidney disease. I think that's amazing. That's amazing, but it's crazy. Like anyone and everyone can develop this disease. It's not just for one race. It's anyone can have this disease.
It's anybody. Yeah. Steve, you put
Mm-hmm.
me on the spot. I better shout out to my sister, Elizabeth, because she's going to kick me. Jeez.
Right, right, right. All right, Miss E. Well,
Thank you, guys.
definitely appreciate you
Thank
being on the
you.
show,
Thank you so much. You're a
and we look
blessing, the
forward.
both of you. Thank you.
We thank you for your continued support as well, and encourage you to share, you know, our information and continue to raise awareness for kidney disease.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Peace out.
All right.
I'm in New York
Bye-bye.
City.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Hey, we'd like to thank Miss Eve for coming on the show. We definitely appreciate her taking the time out of her schedule and sharing this story. But we also, Tamika and I would like to apologize to our audience and people watching for the inappropriate comments from June Kaufman, who suffers from mental illness. We don't take mental illness lightly, and you know, is no joke. However, we have informed Facebook of the appropriate comments. We keep her in our prayers and hope she gets the help she needs to continue to raise awareness for kidney disease, as she's a warrior herself. And, you know, again, we just like to apologize. Tamika, you have anything you'd like to say?
No, you pretty much summed it up. You know, sometimes we, at no time do we have control of what someone comments, you know, but we still want to apologize if anyone read the comment or whatever. She just needs to get some help, you know, and I hope she gets it.
Yeah, and we just like to assure all future guests who may appear on this show that we respect your privacy and assure that nothing like this would ever happen again. We would like to apologize for Miss Eve because of this comment and having, you know, during her broadcast. So we was able to overcome it and continue with the broadcast. So we'd like to thank Miss Eve again for her patience and being gracious about this. And we'd like to apologize again to our audience and thank you for your continued support. Until tomorrow, to the kidney disease education moment, we'll talk to you next week from Tamika and Steve. Good
Good
night,
night,
Tamika.
everybody. Good night, Steve.
All right.